Le Mans. Nearly 50 years of history at this circuit, and in all that time, HSR Racing had never crossed the ocean to run here. This year, it did, and the driver everyone was watching wasn't chasing a trophy. He was chasing something harder to find. Kyle Busch, back behind the wheel, competing for the first time since his younger brother died. 6 weeks. That's how long it had been since Kyle Busch, two-time champion, the winningest driver in NASCAR history, was gone. Now Kurt was strapping in. At Le Mans, in front of the world, what happened next is a story about grief and about what it looks like when a family decides the only way through is to keep racing. Here's why this weekend actually matters. Kyle Busch is a Hall of Famer. 34 Cup Series wins, a career that touched 4 decades, but none of that prepared him for this. Losing a brother who was also his closest rival, his closest friend, the other half of a NASCAR dynasty built out of Las Vegas. This was Kurt's first competitive lap since Kyle's death on May 21st. Every mile at Le Mans carried weight that had nothing to do with lap times. So let's talk about what actually happened. The event was the HSR NASCAR Classic, presented by Goodyear, part of the historic sports car racing series. 3 races on the schedule, all run at the legendary Circuit de la Sarthe. Busch climbed into the #1 Chevrolet Camaro. In the second race of the weekend, he crossed the line third, a podium. In his first race back, his onboard camera clocked him at 197 miles an hour. Now here's why this particular race mattered so much. Kyle Busch died suddenly at 41 years old. Just 6 days before his death, he'd won a Truck Series race at Dover, his 234th career victory across NASCAR's 3 national series. No driver in the history of the sport has more combined wins. He was a 2-time Cup Series champion, widely expected to be a future Hall of Famer himself. And then, on May 21st, he was gone. For Kurt, Le Mans was the first time he had to get back in a race car and simply drive without his brother in the garage, without his brother on the radio, without his brother anywhere in the building. Here's how the moment on track actually unfolded. In that second race, Busch made his move exiting the final chicane. He got around JC France for 3rd place. The margin, 0.010111 seconds. 11 thousandths of a second for a podium finish in the race that mattered more than any finish line could explain. Before the weekend even started, Kurt spoke publicly for one of the first times since losing his brother. He said Kyle's spirit would ride with him. He talked about how hard it still was to accept that Kyle wouldn't be suiting up for the next race, something Kyle had done for nearly his entire life. And he said he believed Kyle would have wanted to be right there at Le Mans racing alongside him. A tribute in Kyle's style. So what does this podium finish actually mean? It means Kyle Busch, a driver who already made history doing things no one else in Cup Series history has done, added one more chapter that has nothing to do with statistics. He's the only Cup Series driver ever to win races in 4 different manufacturers: Ford, Chevrolet, Toyota, and Dodge. He won with 5 different teams: Truck Series Rookie of the Year, a Cup Series champion in 2004, a Daytona 500 winner, a Coca-Cola 600 winner, named one of NASCAR's 75 greatest drivers. Earlier this year, he was inducted into the NASCAR Hall of Fame. The source material doesn't say what comes next for Kurt on track. No schedule, no next race, no stated plan. What we do know is what already happened. And it's enough. Because here's the moment that puts everything into focus. Kyle Busch's death certificate listed the cause as hemorrhagic shock and disseminated intravascular coagulation, a condition that causes widespread clotting in the small blood vessels. He'd been fighting sepsis for at least a day. Complications from presumed bacterial pneumonia had been building for days, maybe weeks. A champion gone that fast. And at the first NASCAR race held after Kyle's death, the Coca-Cola 600 at Charlotte, Kyle Busch walked out to the infield. He laid 8 white roses down on the number gear, 8, etched into the ground in his brother's honor. That was before Le Mans. Le Mans was the next step. Not a ceremony, a race car at 197 miles an hour with the brother's spirit riding along for real. So here's what actually matters from this weekend. Kyle Busch didn't just return to competition. He did it at a track hosting HSR's first race outside the United States in nearly 50 years, and he made it mean something bigger than a 3rd place finish. Here's an angle worth sitting with. Earlier this year, it was Kyle who stood on stage and introduced Kurt into the Hall of Fame. Talked about two kids from Las Vegas, raised to grind it out, taught that nothing comes easy. Told a Rube how proud he was to call Kurt his brother. Months later, Kurt is the one still racing, still carrying that induction forward. Alone. So is a third-place finish at Le Mans really just the third-place finish? Or is this the start of Kurt Busch racing for two? If you want to see where Kurt goes from here, hit subscribe and turn on notifications, because this isn't a story that ends at Le Mans.